Go get a flight, James.
Go on.
Alright, James, my mouth will fly.
There's a gonna flighty. Go, James, you man. Fucking kill it.
Like it got a flighty, James.
Just fling it off the wall.
The moon.
That's sad. Don't even give it back. Don't, man.
Ratcatcher is a film that came out in 1999 that's written and directed by Lynne Ramsay. So Ratcatcher was part of last week's Patron Poll, and it obviously won, but it didn't win handsomely. It only won by, I believe, 1 or 2 points. But I gotta say, I was really stoked that Ratcatcher won the poll, because I'm absolutely in love with Lynne Ramsay as a filmmaker. Because not only do I think that she's one of the best female directors that we have currently today, but she's just one of the overall best directors, period, that we have in a more contemporary sense. Obviously, I really loved You Were Never Really Here. That was my favorite film of 2018, I believe. And I saw We Need to Talk About Kevin, I think sometime last year or earlier this year, can't quite remember. But I also really love that film as well. And I've heard a lot about Ratcatcher for quite a while, and I just really never sat down and watched it because I just had a lot of stuff on my plate. But I was like, why haven't I put this on a poll yet? And luckily when I put it on there, it won, and I couldn't be more excited to talk about this film with you guys. Here's one thing I'll say right out of the gate though. I wouldn't be surprised at all if only a very small handful of you guys out there actually have seen this film, because this is a really hard film to get a hold of. It's not available on any streaming site. It's actually a Criterion Collection film, which is really cool, but it's not available for streaming on the Criterion Collection website, which sucks pretty hard. And there's also not a Blu-ray option for this film. If you want to watch it, you either have to torrent this film, or you have to order the DVD of this film on Criterion Collection. So those are really the only 2 ways you can watch this film. And if you torrent this film, you have to find a way to get decent subtitles, which is also another huge challenge, because even though this film is in English, its place of origin is in Scotland, and the people in this film and where they're from have an incredibly heavy Scottish accent. Where I remember starting the film, and after the first few minutes I was like, okay, I am catching only every other word at best, and it was getting a little bit hard to follow the more fine details of the film. So I was like, okay, I had to find the subtitles, and it took quite a while. But I think that if you can find this film and actually watch it with the subtitles, unless you're from Scotland or just have an incredible ear, if you're able to watch this film, I think it will be highly worth your time, because with everything being said up until this point, I gotta say, this is quite an amazing film, and this definitely showcases the promise of Lynne Ramsay. But Ratcatcher, in a more objective sense, is at the very least as good as We Need to Talk About Kevin and You Were Never Really Here. Not saying that I like this film more than those films, but it's hard for me to sit here and tell you that this film isn't as brilliant as those films as well. Because Ratcatcher showcases everything that I love about Lynne Ramsay as a filmmaker. And what I love about Lynne Ramsay as a filmmaker is that her creative vision is incredibly apparent within the presentation of this film. And when I say that it's apparent within the presentation of the film, I mean every aspect has her fingerprints all over it. You can tell that the aesthetic storytelling in this film is through her own creativity and through her eye, to the point where all the transitions seem incredibly seamless. The camera movements in this film are incredibly well framed, but also incredibly meaningful, and contain some sort of thematic purpose as well. And the sound design and the score are also, not only are they really immersive, but again, just like the aesthetic work, there's this very apparent thematic layer to all of the aesthetics, and that's one thing that I really love about Lynne Ramsay. And she utilizes her creativity to really capture this story of poverty that is also a coming-of-age story that is incredibly dark and honest and probably goes down certain areas that would make a lot of people uncomfortable. But even though this film can be quite grim, it definitely has this uplifting and beautiful atmosphere to it that even within all the grime that's in this film and with all of the depression that's in this film, it always seemed, whether through the aesthetics or through certain situations that happen in this film, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And there are certain moments in this film, including this one scene where the main character goes out in the field, and just the way that entire scene was shot, I thought was absolutely breathtaking. And it's stuff like that that makes me really, really appreciate and love the art of filmmaking in general. But I love the way that this film was able to capture and explore not only children, but just people in general who just crave the sense of belonging, because whether it's from their upbringing and their socioeconomic circumstances, these are people that just want to feel like they belong somewhere and be around people who can truly understand their hardships, because again, they come from an entire area that apparently is completely neglected by their society. And obviously that can have socioeconomic and psychological consequences to people that grow up in that type of area. And most of the time, when you grow up in that area, you're not going to have the best type of parents either, because they also are going through the same type of bullshit. And it's just kind of this vicious cycle of just bad upbringings and poverty, to the point where you need somebody that's trying to break the cycle and escape all of this. And escapism is definitely something that is explored in this film. That again, is kind of tied within that scene I was talking about, where the main character is kind of running around in this open field. And I just thought that was demonstrated beautifully in this film. The musical score in this film is also really well utilized and really well composed. There are moments that kind of reminded me a lot of that Hans Zimmer score in True Romance. I didn't really like it that much in True Romance. It just didn't work very well for me, and I thought it was a bit out of place and goofy. But I think it's really well utilized in Ratcatcher, because most of the time it's used in a more ironic sense. And if it's not used in an ironic sense, it feels really earned and more appropriate within the context of what's happening. So yeah, this is a film that I highly enjoyed. And obviously I had enormous expectations going into it, because I've absolutely loved Lynne Ramsay's previous works that I've seen. So the fact that even though I had mammoth expectations and it essentially still lived up to them is extraordinary on its own. So I'm going to give Lynne Ramsay's Ratcatcher a very strong 9 out of 10. So if you can somehow get your hands on this film and watch it, if you have your ways to do that, I would highly recommend it, because I think it is well worth your time. And I really don't think that this film is going to let you down. But anyways, that's all I got to say about Lynne Ramsay's Ratcatcher. If you really enjoyed what I had to say about the film, please give this video a thumbs up and share it amongst your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to be updated on more film-related content.